Hello, everyone, and welcome back to On the Bright Side. I'm your host, Caroline Susko, and I am so glad you're here joining me for another episode of On the Bright Side. I'm so happy to be doing this with you guys right now. And if you didn't see it in my description, this is the last episode of season 1. The last episode, which is crazy. It went by so quickly. But don't worry, season 2 is already in the works, and I'm excited for what's to come and the guests that are going to be on here. Woo! But anyways, right now we have today's episode to focus on, and I am so ready for it. I have a Dr. Pepper next to me. Guys, I've been on a Dr. Pepper kick lately. Like when I need energy or if I'm just like super tired, Dr. Pepper. So Dr. Pepper's sitting next to me right now in case I need it, in case I need that piece of energy to just like woo. And especially just with spring semester, junior year of college, oh my goodness, there's a lot. There's a lot that I was like, oh my gosh. And you guys know me, I'm a perfectionist. I shouldn't be, but I am. And I'm trying to work on that. But I've just got dumped with stuff lately. And I was like, oh my gosh, everything needs to be perfect. So when it's that kind of day, I make sure I have some reward of something. And that is my mini little key to life today. I'm going to give you that. Give yourself little rewards along the way to keep yourself going. Whether, it's going out, watching a movie, go treating yourself to your favorite restaurant, whatever it is, make sure you have some kind of reward for yourself because rewards are the best thing that you can do for yourself. But, it's also important, when you need a break before you burn out. So again, also me, I try to get so many things done at once that then I get into a burnout and I'm like, oh my gosh. And you start to notice the red flags that are being waved in front of you. Literally a week before my spring break, I was trying to bang out every assignment so I wouldn't have to do anything on spring break. And then when I finally was on spring break, I took a nap and I woke up 15 hours later. I was like, oh my gosh, that was the first night after traveling all day. But I was like out like a light 15 hours. But at the time when I was doing all the work, I was like, woo, look at me get it done. Look at me go. And then before you know it, my body was just completely burnt out. So my piece of advice for you guys today, while we're nearing kind of the final few months of school, when you're burning out, stop, take a break, stop doing homework and just go relax, go watch a movie, go do something because your body needs that. And if you don't respect your body when it's about to burn out, you will just burn out like never before. And then you'll end up getting sick or just exhausted and it won't work out the way you want it to be. So let's get on to today's episode. That was my little rant of today. But before we get on to today's episode, you guys know the drill. We're going to talk about our gratefuls, what we're grateful for to set us in the mood for a great, wonderful episode full of positivity and motivation. So today, I'm grateful for life lessons. Life lessons are weird because sometimes when they're happening, you think the world is out to get you, if that makes sense. When actually life is happening for you and to ultimately teach you something. But again, at the time, we don't know that. We don't see that. And I think it's really important that we take a minute to realize and step back on situations in our life that we view as bad and that we viewed as bad in the past and take a minute to see the growth that's come from them. For so many times in all of our lives, we see something go wrong and we're like, why did that happen to me? But we look back later, or maybe we don't even think about looking back later, and we're like, oh, that happened for a reason, and there was so much more that came from that because that happened. And just taking time to realize that life lessons come out of those situations, whether you want to see it or not, there's life lessons there. There's been more times in my life than I can even count where something didn't go the way I hoped, where I had such a high expectations for myself or for a situation, and it turned out being the complete opposite. I know you guys know what I mean. This happens to everyone. We're human. This happens. Or, when there were times when I thought people would be in my life forever, turned out not to be the person I expected them to be. And I was like, oh, that sucks. But then I look back and I was like, oh, like it all makes sense now. Or, there's been times where I've messed up big time and it's all blown up completely in my face. And in those moments, you catch yourself and recognize that there's these life lessons. Even when you mess up, there's life lessons. Even when you do something wrong, there's a life lesson in that. And, we don't want it to happen, obviously, and we try our best to navigate away from those situations, but it's inevitable for them not to happen. And when we go through those situations and experience them, it's important we look to see how that changed us as a person after, how it switched our mindset. and stop questioning ourselves saying, why me? Why did this happen to me? Why did I have to do that? Instead saying, thank gosh this happens to me because I see a whole new perspective that I never thought I would have seen or would have seen if I didn't get this experience. And even though the experience was really hard at the time, it opened so many doors. Please think about an experience in your life or something with self. So I don't know, whatever it may be. But then take a minute, pause this episode, and kind of think about how it turned out really well. There's almost in every situation, something turns well. If something goes wrong somewhere, you learn from something. If you do something wrong, you learn from something. If someone goes out of your life, it's meant for a reason. Everything's meant for a reason. And these life lessons are all around us. We have to open our eyes to them and just step back and see these life lessons, because until we stop and learn the lessons, it's just going to feel like things keep happening to us for no reason and not for us. So when we stop and evaluate our life, we see the areas where we need to grow in or the lessons that come from the situations. And until we stop and do that, we won't fully be able to see that. We won't be able to fully see that growth from that. Over the past month, my life has shown me amazing life lessons. And at the time I was like, why is this happening? And I look back now and I am so thankful I opened my eyes to it and took a minute to kind of look at the situation and step back once my emotions were no longer in that situation. And, again, at the time I was like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? And until I realized this was my break. I was put into these situations to stop, take a break, and look at the bigger picture, because so many times in my past, I just wouldn't look at the bigger picture. I would just say, poor me, and keep moving on. When in fact, all these things were happening for me for a positive reason. I just wasn't seeing that. Here's a great example. Spring break, I posted on my Instagram story that my anxiety was not great on that trip, and I had to go home maybe 36 hours into the vacation. And who wouldn't want to be on vacation doing this? It was amazing, but my anxiety just kept getting in the way. And so I ended up having to fly home. But again, I looked at that in the beginning and I go, why does this anxiety happen to me? Why do these panic attacks happen to me? Why? And once I got home and had a few days to figure it out and just breathe for a second, first I learned that I was burnt out. Like I said before, I was so burnt out trying to do so many things, juggle so many things, that I had no time to breathe. And then I got on a vacation and just kept trying to do that. And I learned that I had anxiety problems that still needed to be worked on when I thought I was perfect at the time. And this is great because I have another vacation coming up in June. And I was like, you know what? This vacation didn't go as planned, but now this helps me to get to the next vacation and be able to do it, because now I have time to learn coping skills, to figure everything out and get myself back on track. So my point is here, make good with the world and know that everything you do, good or bad, comes with a valuable life lesson. And that will bring you so far in life. So this brings me to today's episode topic on failure and how failures and setbacks can lead us to such beautiful things that we've never thought about before. So let's get into it. This might be a little longer of an episode, so buckle your seatbelts, but you're going to learn a lot. You're going to feel really motivated by the end. Sit down, buckle up. Let's do it. All right, failure. Failure is a weird concept to grasp. It's such a weird one. All our lives, we've been trained to look at failure in such a negative light. We think that failure automatically means that we're doomed. And at that time, those feelings are valid. That feeling of disappointment is valid. Don't get me wrong. But it's then we stay with that mindset of failure and continue to think that failure's bad. When failure, and that we think that failure equals punishment, and failure just makes us feel like we hit rock bottom. And it's time we stop feeling like that. It's time we stop beating ourselves up if we mess up. It's time to embrace failure, because without failure, there's no growth. Without failure, there is no growth. If you don't fail, you don't have anything to compare yourself to when you're back up on the rise again. If we don't fail, our good days tend to just start looking like failing days because we don't have anything to compare it to. I don't know if that makes sense, but here, let me explain like this. In one of Thomas Rhett's songs, he sings that you can never go up if you never come down. And failure lets us come down, regroup, and try again. Like, you can't be your highest self if you don't have those low days. And if you don't have those low days, you can't get those high days, because to get to this high, you need to jump from the low to the high. You can't just have high days, or then your high days start to then be your low days and act as that. And that starts to be a line. So it's time to reframe that mindset, starting with how so many of us think of failure right now, because the way so many think of us as like failure is bad. We think failure, bad. And, like at the time when we fail, yeah, it totally makes sense to feel like, oh crap, like what, but because it's not aligning with the dreams we had planned in mind. And I bet there's times, you failed a test that you studied really hard for, and you get the grade back and you're like, well, that wasn't part of the game plan. Wait. I got a story. I remember senior year of high school, I was taking my AP Psych test, and I had a mound of flashcards. Like, when I say a mound, like maybe like 400 flashcards stacked up on each other, handwritten. And I had been studying for the past 4 months. Like, studying so much that it started being a joke with my friends about the amount of flashcards I had. Like, it was just like craziness. And I was like, psych, this is going to be great test. This is what I'm good at. And this is what I'm going to major in and have my career in. Like, this is going to go perfect. I've studied for so long. How could I do bad? Like, I've got this in the bag. I go into the test. I'm nervous for the test, but I'm like, all right, woohoo, I got this. I took the test, and mind you, because of COVID, it was online. So it was even at home too. It was just like monitored. It wasn't even in person like normal years. So I take the test. And when I click submit, I am like, things I did that. Like, I did that. I'm like, lowest I got is definitely a 4. And then that's perfect. It'll count as a college credit and I'll be ahead. And I was like, woohoo, here we go, summer, let's go. I'm starting college early with this credit. Fast forward, the tests are released. And I'm just banking on that 4 or 5. Like, I'm like, yeah, I got it. I'm really confident in my test. I open up the portal. I'm like listening to music. Like, I'm not really worried. I'm like, yeah, 4 or 5. I get a 1. Guys, you get a 1 for writing your name on the test. Guys, I am not joking. I was on TikTok later that day and someone posted their AP test results and they wrote the lyrics to the Trish Fiesta song, Disney Channel song, and got it 1. I got it 1. I saw the score and at the time I was too stunned to speak. So I was like, you know what, wait, this must have just been like a super hard test. They graded my test wrong. So I'm going to call my friends. I'm like, what'd you guys get? Like, that test was, I guess, hard. And she was like, I actually got a 5. I was like, like this has got to be a mistake. Guys, it was not a mistake. So at first I'm just laughing because I'm like, this is really funny. And then it turns to my mind spiraling saying, well, crap, this is what my major is. This is what my future is supposed to be. And I just got the same grade as the person who wrote the Trish song on the paper as their answer. Like, if this wasn't my definition of failure at the time, I don't know what was. I got the same grade as the person who wrote the Fiesta Party Quinceañera songs. That song. That song. And at the time, I thought it was the end of the world. But I was like, sugar and spice. I was like, like how? But this turned out to teach me something. 1, gave me a really funny story. And you guys know I love funny stories. I love laughing. And now I added this to list of funny things that have happened to Miss Caroline Susko. So the first thing about failure is that in so many situations, you usually can always look back and end up finding it funny. Now, it may not be funny in the moment, but I feel like when it's that type of failure, you look at it and you're like so pissed, you're just trying not to laugh because you go, this is going to be really funny in a couple years. Some of the best stories are the ones we failed in, but at the time we're so hard on ourselves that we forget that to look at the big picture, realize how small this is, and we forget to laugh. Like, I look back and I laugh so hard over this, and I tell this story so many times, but at the time I was like, what am I going to do? I'm not going to get the right major. This is going to not work out for me. I'm going to fail. I'm not going to get on the career path I want. And I was like, looking back now, I'm like, like, this was all perfect, meant to be funny story. Again, like, guys, freshman year of college, I was at the time failing with the transition. So wait, I have another funny story while I'm on this. I'll be quick. Guys, freshman year of college, it was at the time where I was failing with this transition. So one day I said to myself, Caroline, today you're going to try your best not to cry and look at all the positives and see where it gets you. So I was like, okay, let's do this. We're going to have a good day, smile on our face. A few hours after that, I'm hysterically crying outside of the Hope building. Like I was at a low, failing. And then tears are rolling down my face. I'm on the phone with my mom. I'm like, Mom, I need to go home. College is not for me. And guess what happens? As the tears are flowing down my eyes, a huge tour of accepted students comes around the corner. And I am being stared at like I am an exhibit. I'm actually wondering if any of those students came to UNH after that show, because guys, it was literally like I was an exhibit, like exhibit A of what not to look at. Like they were probably like, all right, over here, like totally opposite side. Anyways, you guys know I love UNH now. And at the time, I considered it such a big failure in my life because I didn't like going out. I was super homesick. I was super anxious. And I look back now and I'm like, yes, all those feelings were valid. But Caroline, that failure brought you so many more friends, so many more laughs and all of that. Honestly, guys, I would have paid big money to see how that tour reacted. It was just like the epitome of what you don't want to see on a tour. But see, like at the time, they feel like the end of the world, but like these things aren't the end of the world. And, you know, then there's also bigger failures that are definitely more significant. And we almost always see those failures as 2 steps back. You know, they stick with us, they make us feel bad in the moment. And then sometimes we even choose to let the failure define us in the future we have and who we are as a person. So then because of that fear, we tend to beat ourselves up and then use it as an excuse to run away from so many opportunities because we're scared of failure being a possible outcome again. Like, I get it. All of us want to be validated with the green flags always, but you know, these red flags help us see those green flags. So first thing is, we as humans need to realize that there is a lot of beauty in failure, and we forget to see it because we're stuck looking at the negatives. We're stuck about all the negative what ifs when we're not ever saying, what's the best that could happen out of this? Like, what is there to see from this? There's something. Like, what is it? We're stuck not having this moment align with the picture we had in our mind. We're stuck with that feeling of shame and disappointment and tend to look at the glass half empty. Think about it like this. If younger you were trying to ride a bike and fell off first try, would you go up to yourself and say, your little self, you're a failure. You're not going to be able to ride this bike. You're not going to be able to get this down because this dream of yours of riding a bike is over. No, we wouldn't. So why are we saying these things to ourselves now? Why are we acting like failure is the end of the world? And, you know, again, at the time when we were younger and failed at something like riding a bike, it did feel like the end of the world not being able to because all the other kids around you were learning and getting the hang of it and you were still failing. But just because you failed doesn't mean you're going to not succeed forever. We need these little failing moments to make us succeed. Nothing is that straight to success. You need these little bumps along the way. And at the time in our little eyes, it was the end of the world. Like, we were so upset over if we couldn't get going on the bike without our training wheels for the first time. But you know, these failures act as training wheels to get us going in the world. And now we look back and we see how small that problem was in the grand scheme of life. It was nothing. So now, think about the failure that you're still holding on to, something that happened to you recently. And now look at it from older you's perspective and realize it's not going to matter. 20 years from now, this is not going to matter. What you got on a test will not matter in 20 years. If you failed, make it better and it's all okay. What's meant to be will always find you, and all these experiences of failure lead you to the path that you're meant to be on. And failure brings success, and we wouldn't get to that point of success without failure helping us to try to find that way. You know, here's how I like to see it. I'm getting crisscross applesauce for this and like really doing the hand motions. When you look at failure, you should see it as a rock in the middle of the road. Say you're driving, you're on the road, and there's this big boulder. You can't get around it. And you're like, well, crap. You have 2 choices. This rock is going to help you realize that you need to turn back around and try a new path or have a new way around this obstacle. This rock is those failures. These failures in life aren't just being thrown at us for the fun of it. It's thrown at us because we need to learn something or move on to the path that we're supposed to be on. And sometimes failure has to throw a boulder in your road to say, go this way, go this way. There's so much better success over here. I want you on this path. Take getting a bad grade, for example, on a test. Something, so many of us see as failure. But when you fail a test, a life lesson always almost comes out of it. When you fail a test, there's something you can learn from. You may learn that you need to study, study differently. Maybe start studying if you didn't study. You learn that maybe this subject isn't for you and you can cross it off going forward, but you learn something if you choose to. So it's important that we give ourselves the grace to fail, because if we don't give ourselves that grace, we aren't going to know where we need to improve, and it's just going to be a rougher road of living the path we're already meant to be on. So instead, take that boulder, take that sign of failure as a reroute in the right direction, because in this life, we're meant to succeed. And sometimes these failures are just trying to push us over there. So instead of getting mad over failure, get excited, because you're about to learn something, you're about to discover something new about yourself, or you're about to get going on the path that you're supposed to be on. We need to leave the door wide open for failure and welcome it and say, come on in, show me the path to success, and this is how we're going to do it. So give yourself that grace to tell yourself that failure is okay and you're going to be okay. And when we fail, the best thing that we can do for ourselves is take a step back when we are ready and look at this so-called failure, because maybe it was never even a failure, and most times it never was. Because when we're in the right mindset and take a minute to look on the bright side, didn't even mean to do self-promo there, but here we are. We will be able to see in almost every situation a life lesson that came from it. Going back to my psych test, I came to college and did a whole year with psych as my major. Then I realized I did not like it. I realized it wasn't for me, and it was too much for me. And maybe it made perfect sense. Maybe that was my boulder getting a 1 on the AP, saying, time to shift. There's something better for you out there. Or, when me crying at school on the phone with my mom, honestly just told that story, but it was funny. But I look back, and at the time, it was a failure. But I look back and I'm saying that failure brought me so much strength, because I learned that I could deal with things that were super hard for me and get through them and grow from them. Failure is here to help us. And we need to realize that. Failure is so valuable. And I'll say it 1,010,000 times. It's so valuable. And we have to start opening the door for it. Failure isn't there to say, haha, sucker, that sucks. Because guess what? Failure isn't failure. Failure is here to say, get over here. You're going to love this life. Let me help you get on the right path. Failure helps us to see the things that we haven't opened our eyes to yet. And it's taken us so long to see it that something's got to come literally down and shift us in the right direction so we can see the successful path that we were meant to be on all this time. Because if we're not being shifted, we stay going in the same direction. We can stay doing the same things, and we may lose out on this successful path that we're supposed to be on and miss out on the path that's waiting for us, trying to welcome us. And when we open our eyes to failure, we're going to start being able to realize that failure is something we want to embrace. And, for so long especially just growing up in the social media generation, I don't mean to be like social media, because I love social media. But, especially growing in that time, we've just been conditioned to put our best selves forward. You never see fails. I mean, nowadays you do, but before we never saw fails on social media. We just saw everyone's best part of their lives. We didn't see people crying when they had a bad day. We didn't see people's anxious sides. We didn't see people when they got bad test grade. All they wanted to post was the best stuff. So then, guess what? Because we didn't see failure around us, we thought failure was only happening to us. And then we masked it up and didn't want to talk about it. We thought it was only happening to us. But no, failure happens to everyone, and failure is a good thing. And again, going back to social media, we made it look like failure was awful. Like failure was the end of the world, and that if you failed, step back. No, failure is bringing you 2 steps forward. Don't think about failure taking you steps back. Failure is taking you 2 steps forward to see the path that you're meant to be on, to see the places you're supposed to go, to see the people you're supposed to surround yourself with. Failure helps you do that. Moving in a little bit of a different direction. Actually, no. It'll all circle around. I saw this video on TikTok the other day, and the guy basically said, you're suffering from self-doubt while others are intimidated by your full potential. So let me say that again, and then we'll kind of like go into explain it. You're suffering from self-doubt while others are intimidated by your full potential. So within yourself, you're just like, I don't think I can do this. I don't think I can do this. This isn't going to work out. Things may go wrong. While everyone else is intimidated by how much you're doing, by all the success you're bringing. You may not see the success, but in everyone else's eyes, everyone's like, oh my gosh, look at her go. No matter who you are, everyone like around you is like at some point in time, like, wow, look at her go. And I wrote the video down because it made me think back to failure. Like, we're suffering from failure and thinking that we failed when everyone around us is intimidated by how much we're succeeding. We beat ourselves up and look at everything negatively, where people on that with an outside view are like, look at them go, look at her go, look at him go. They're doing it, and I can't wait to watch them, see where they go. And wow, how are they doing it all? See, we need to adapt to view ourselves from the outside view, the way we view everyone else. Like here, we see celebrities and we're like, look how much they've accomplished. Like, she's got a Grammy, she's on this show, she has so many friends. And we're like, wow, look at her go. She's awesome, so talented. And in their mind, they're like, oh, this is not good. I didn't do this right. Everyone's going to know. Like, I am not succeeding. I just failed. Because we compare ourselves to everyone else. And we never just take a minute to say, look at all the success we're bringing to the table that we don't even see. We see these celebrities like, wow, look at her go. Start looking at yourself like, look at her go. Be your own outsider view and say, look at her go. And look at all that I'm accomplishing. And look at all the success coming from me. Even because those little failures helped me to bring all this success, and it helped me got me here. It helped me to bring me here. And, you know, during this, it's so important that the people that you're surrounded by are the people saying, wow, look at her go. On the days that you can't have that outsider view, the days that, you know, because we all have those days where we're like not feeling great about ourselves or what we've accomplished. But you don't want to be surrounded by those people who say, look at her go only on her good days. Or, you know, when you finally see success in something that took you so long to get, then they're like, yes, look at her go. No, you want to be surrounded by people when you're at your lowest. They're like, look at her go. She's going to do so much. You need those people that are going to pick you up when you can't say to yourself, look at her go. You need those people that are around you to remind you what you're capable of. Now, this brings me to the talk on relationships and how sometimes those fail too. Now, all right, here we go. Now, we may be the ones to have messed up a relationship, or there may be a person who messed up the relationship and it's just been a long road. But it's important that first, if we fail with a relationship, if it's our fault personally, we take ownership for that behavior, we learn from it, and we grow from it. Because again, we can't grow if we don't learn. And sometimes it takes those learning experiences to grow. And, you know, once that fail happens, if you take that fail correctly, it's not going to happen again. You learn something from it, you've moved on, you've made amends with the person, and that's that. You're okay. You don't need to hold on to that. What makes a difference is when we have failures like that, when we fail someone, it makes a difference on how we approach the situation and how we handle that situation. And so now on the other side, just say you're in a relationship and this guy was really awful to you, or just say it was even a friendship. Treat that as a strike one. And you know, when these relationships are failing, sometimes we need to take it as a sign. Remember, bring it back to the boulder, that we may need this boulder rock in the road to come hit us so we can kind of begin to see the bigger picture. Every person that has come into your life has come in for a reason, whether that's to be by your side through life or let you know what you don't deserve. And sometimes we need those failing relationships to help us to realize that we deserve better And, sometimes we don't value our worth, and sometimes we just try to people please everyone around us. When in fact, the only person it's hurting at the end of the day is yourself, because you're putting all your emotions and energy and attentions into these relationships that are failing you when you're just trying your best to people please. By having these relationships of mid-relationships of people that aren't treating you the best, you're just handing out your energy, basically saying, hey, everyone else around me, no matter how they treat me, is so much more important than myself. And at the end of the day, that's not true. You know that your feelings, your emotions, your energy come first, and you have to savor that energy. So don't waste your energy on people who would never return that energy. You want good vibes, you want to be surrounded by good people, and give the energy you have left over to people who fuel that good energy to begin with. And I get it. It's hard because, we don't want things to fail. Again, we see it as bad, but sometimes it's necessary for some relationships to fail because in our eyes, we think it's the best thing ever. But in everyone else's eyes, they're like, oh my gosh, this is not good. Like, no, they need to move on from each other. So sometimes in those relationships, it's taking that failure as a sign to reroute, to move on. Sometimes you don't always need to make it work with people. And when relationships fail, it's time for you to walk away and protect your own peace. And it can be hard at first. For some people, it can feel like grieving. And I mean, for some relationships, it makes sense for it to feel like that because you've worked around having them in your life. You've put them into the puzzle of your life. And now that's a missing piece. You have to find a way for that puzzle to be rebuilt, whether that's building it more in yourself and building that confidence back up in yourself or that energy or with new people that you surround yourself by. But it's hard at first. And, it makes us feel like we failed because we couldn't keep that relationship and we couldn't try to make it work. But sometimes you don't always need to make it work with people. Again, we're like, if we don't make it work with someone, fail. Break up, fail. That's how we're conditioned it to see in our eyes. But 99% of those times, it's not a fail. It's putting you in the right direction. Life is so short, and we hear that a lot. So in this time, wouldn't you want to be around the people that make you feel good? Or would you want to be around the people that are taking from your energy, that are not adding to your life? They're just taking away from it. No. But at the end of the day, if someone's not realizing your worth, and I know that there is so much better out there and that there's someone so much better waiting for you. And, sometimes we just have to let those people go and let them miss out on the awesome, wonderful, beautiful people we are. Don't waste your worth on people that don't see it. Say, thank you, failure, for showing me that. And with this, then we quickly learn that every person that comes into your life comes in for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. People may come into your life to be the best part of you, to be your best friend, to be by your side through your life, to be your rock. And then there's people who come into your life that you say, hey, I'm not supposed to be treated like that. And I know my worth and I know it's better than that. And I'm not doing this anymore. And then there's those people that come into your life for just a season, just a couple months to say, here's a life lesson. Here's something I need you to learn. Here's another perspective I need you to see. Everyone's in your life for a reason. So don't look at the relationship as a failure because all these failed relationships are helping you see what you deserve. And it takes those failed relationships to sometimes help us say, hey, this is not what I deserve. I am so much more than this. And I want to be surrounded by people who see my worth and see how much I'm worth. You may know your worth, but let me tell you, with the positive people that you're supposed to be surrounded by, that worth is going to triple because the people around you are going to know your worth, and then you're really going to know your worth. So I'm going off track here, but what I'm trying to say is that all these failing relationships help us to see something. So embrace all the relationships that have failed in the past. And, some relationships, they're meant to fail once for you to learn something, and then they might be the best relationships other. But whatever happens, just know it's meant to be. You want to try to find those people that are going to be with you for life and show you all that you deserve because that's something you deserve. You deserve all good people around you who see that. You want to be surrounded by people who on your bad days can still be like, oh, that is my best friend. She is awesome. She's amazing. Look at her go. And they can hype you up any time of the day. If you're trying to impress people, they aren't the people you want in your life. If you're trying to prove yourself to people, they aren't the right people. Let failure tell you that. Don't let failure keep knocking on your door, trying to tell you this relationship isn't good. Take it as a sign the first or second time that this relationship is not supposed to be happening and that you're supposed to be learning something to get out, move forward, learn, and grow. And why would you want people in your life that don't see your worth the first time? Why are you trying to prove yourself by going back to them a second time or a third time? I promise you, the people that are meant to be in your life are going to know your worth before they even know you. They're just going to see it radiate from you and be like, she's awesome. She deserves the world. I want to be friends with her because I know I deserve the world too. And together it'd be unstoppable. So be gentle with yourself and realize that no failure is a failure. It's a path to something that is so much better and brighter for you and for your soul and for your energy. Basically, with failure, it's going to open you doors and let you see life from a whole new, but you have to open those doors yourself, be able to see it. So what I'm trying to say today is that failure is what allows us to have an amazing life full of amazing people that we're surrounded by, full of amazing opportunities and all things amazing and all good vibes. Failure gives us that path to success. Failure gives us that path to live our best life. Can you see what I mean now? By failure is a good thing and that it leads us to so much more. So remember that for the next time you fail, think about, is it actually a failure or is this leading me to my best life? And guess what? It's leading you to your best life. And with that is season 1 of On the Bright Side. You guys, this has been so rewarding, so much fun, and I am so glad I'm on this journey with you guys and that you guys are on this journey with me. You all are my world, and thank you so much for being so supportive of this dream of mine, and thank you for sharing your stories with me. Now, season 2 is already in the works with new amazing guests, new amazing topics, and some fun new surprises. But you guys, don't worry, I'm not going to leave you hanging. The pod Insta at On the Bright Side with 2 Ds is going to be extra active with a lot of positive vibes, motivation, and real good vibe energy only. So until new episodes drop in June for season 2, stay on that Instagram. You will have a look into my life still. Don't worry, my voice will be on there. And there will definitely be some announcements of some amazing guests coming on the pod and a date for when season 2 is going to come out. But until then, thank you guys so much for doing season 1 with me. I love you all so much. And I can't wait to see what season 2 brings. And remember to stay looking on the bright side. And I promise you it'll serve you really well. Love you guys. Bye.